Welcome back. You're watching the Digital Pivot to Asia. Thank you, Mr. Prasad. You did mention about digital inclusion and how the government is moving forward to provide internet for all. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate you for having launched the Digital India mission. And also, I noted the point that while there is a pressing need for clarity on the issue of internet governance, that's a matter of detail and the government is working on it. But what prompts me, and it's a question that is on everybody's mind, recently Sunil Bharti Mittal said that if you want to offer free internet, then do philanthropy. So basically, what kind of role can we expect the government to play in this regard when it comes to providing internet for all?
I'm very happy to learn that Malvika, after all, didn't ask me a question on the spectrum today, okay? Which she keeps on chasing. You know, what we are doing with broadband, this whole broadband connectivity to 250,000 Gram Panchayats of India is basically funded by the government. We are creating a space for that. And once it is there, a lot of business proposition will come about. I don't want to comment on any particular comment made by anyone. I always say, when we talked of digital inclusion, I simply mean the digital gateway should be available to all. If the broadband penetration is good, if this effectiveness is good, its effectiveness should be available for all. That's what I mean by digital inclusion. And the government can play a role of facilitator. Having said that, I also added, if availability of broadband's effectiveness gives some scope for some technology, we can consider that an option. But for me, when I say of digital inclusion, we should not create a further category, a subcategory of digital super haves and digital super have nots. That's what I meant.
Well, sir, if we are going to be moving towards digital inclusion, internet governance will be a key component, and that's something that people are not even aware of. What kind of impact do you think that US net neutrality rules will have on India's story when it comes to internet governance and growth of digital India?
First, if people do not know much about it, you are also to be blamed. It is your job to tell the people as to what things are as a leading journalist. That's what we are doing. That's what this whole program is about today. As I say, there is a big transition underway as far as internet governance is concerned. Some of the issues Mr. Fadi flagged, some of them I flagged. We need to engage more. I am willing to have feedback from you also, from Samir, from Sujay. Because one architecture, namely controlled by the USA and as an oversight of monitoring, is going to end by September. A new architecture has to come. The entire internet scenario in the country and the world has almost metamorphosed in the coming 5-10 years. And as Mr. Fadi rightly pointed out, whenever we come with a future architecture, we need to take into account the kind of future challenges, future opportunities, future difficulties. All these things will have to be. But yes, my broad benchmark is very clear. It has to be broad-based. It has to be global. And surely, countries like India must be expected to play a role.
Well, Fadi, Mr. Prasad mentioned that internet governance needs to be broad-based. And you had mentioned in your speech that all of internet cannot be centrally governed. You also said that India needs to be one of the drivers and leaders when it comes to internet governance. What do you think is holding India back?
I don't think India is held back by any external factor or any particular reason. I think traditionally, the institutions that govern the internet started and were spawned by the country that energized the creation of this platform, the USA. And that's only 20 years ago. I mean, in our history, India or Egypt, that's a blip. But in internet time, that's a long time. But the time has come now when the internet affects every fabric of our social lives, of our economy, of our politics, of the world, of how people in the world see us as well. That India should take its place at the table. Now, ICANN, for example, is one of these institutions. There's also the IETF, which is more for the engineers. There is the W3C, which is more for the content. Now, this is important that you appreciate that as there are many institutions that govern the Internet, it is important for India to map its participation across these institutions. I want to, with all due respect, correct something His Excellency said. He said that India should participate or is invited to participate in our fora. I would like to say that India must participate because without you, we are not able to say that our table is complete. It is impossible for me to say that ICANN, I'll speak for my organization, is a global organization if India is not at the table in a very prominent way, commensurate with who India is. And it's easy for me to say this here because, as I said at the podium, we share the same principles.
The table is not complete without India's presence, and India needs to map its position when it comes to Internet governance. But I wanted to ask you, Mr. Prasad, that Narendra Modi at a recent NASSCOM event had spoken about cybersecurity and how that was an emerging market when it comes to India, and Indian companies can actually create a niche role for themselves. Where do you think India can position itself? The cybersecurity policy that India had developed particularly deals with the manner in which Indian government looks at cybersecurity, but not necessarily provides an overarching architecture for various companies and stakeholders to engage with each other.
First of all, just to reply to what Mr. Fadi said, when I say we must be called, we should be called, I only say recognize our role as an important player in the international community. Okay? That's what, and I also said Digital India program can be replicated by others after its success. That's how I see. Yes, as the Minister of IT and Communication, I would like India's role to be recognized and respected. India is certainly an integral part of the high table. What's wrong with that? Now, secondly, as far as your question, Malvika, is concerned, what the Prime Minister said is, cyber security requires to be given greater attention. And if I can use the words of the Prime Minister, soon we will have 1 billion mobile phones in India. We must tell the users of mobile phone it is security compliant fully, lest they may not run away by touching the mobile itself. It has become too much of problem and vulnerability on security issue. Surely, many problems of technology can be answered by technology. We have problems of cyber security, we have threats, we have abuses, we have terrorism, we have rank abuse. This whole ISIS movement is what? Technology driven in many ways. Therefore, what can we do to contain those? The technology has to find a reply.
Now we could take a few questions from the audience.
My name is DC Pathak. My question for Mr. Fadi is that does he perceive a further movement on the part of the US where any flow of information from the internet world will be shared with a friend if it is of mutual concern, because this become a requirement after the Snowden episode?
I think that happens today already. But this is a very good example of something that can be settled between governments, with government relationships. It has nothing to do with the institutions that are multi-stakeholder like ICANN, where we manage a different layer. My sense is, as we move forward, that governments will continue to be challenged by the fact that the internet is borderless.
I think hilarious, I can tell you, this whole World Cup cricket match going on. One day, fine morning, we are confronted with a court order, block 52 sites, because they were illegally using the feed which has been won by the auctioneer for telecast of cricket rights. All were outside India. We were absolutely taken aback. These problems keep on coming.
Yeah, and what do we do is the question now, right? And again, this is beyond ICANN, but I'm just answering your question out of respect for its importance and for you. It is very important that governments, operators of these networks, ICANN and others, cooperate together to address these issues. And the problem of the internet is its speed. So unlike climate, if we pollute in Karachi, it takes it a few days to get to New Delhi. But if you pollute the internet in Cairo, it gets to Los Angeles before you blink. The speed of the internet is challenging all of us. And therefore, we need mechanisms to manage the internet that are as fast as the internet.